Hey everybody, this is On Cinema. My name is Tim Heidecker, and with me is Greg Turkington.
Hey guys.
This is a special episode of On Cinema for Corey Clark, who donated $50 to the American Red Cross. We thank you for that, Corey.
Thanks, Corey.
And your movie that you want us to talk about is The Straight Story, a movie by David Lynch.
It's a personal favorite of mine, Corey. Glad you brought that one up. It's a lot of fun. It's kind of a departure for Lynch. You know, if you've seen Lynch movies in the past, like The Elephant Man, remember with Michael Jackson trying to buy the Elephant Man's bones or his skull or something? And that was kind of a strange chapter for Michael Jackson. But this is a whole other thing, and it's a great movie. I'd say it's a classic.
Well, I haven't seen it, but I can only put it on my list of movies to check out. So thanks again.
It's available.
All right, thanks, Corey, and have a great day. Thanks for listening. Hey everybody, you're listening to the On Cinema podcast. My name is Tim Heidecker. I'm your host. I got a special guest with me today, and he's a film buff, knows quite a bit about movies and Hollywood and all those kind of things, is Greg Turkington.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Or in this case, one person's tuning in.
Right.
Jane.
Jane
donated
Lindoff.
some money.
Thank you very much, Jane, for your donation to the Red Cross. We really do appreciate it, and I'm sure it's being used appropriately. Let's hope
hopefully
at least.
not. Hopefully they're not just spending it on a Netflix membership. Because although I do like Netflix.
Right. So Jane's movie she would like to talk about today is a movie called. Let me show you this right. Fargo.
Fargo, yes.
Fargo.
That's a classic. Have you seen that one, Tim?
I'm trying to think if this was the one with Jeff Bridges, where he's the guy for. No, I'm thinking of Fearless.
Right.
The airplane.
Yeah, no,
crash.
Fargo takes place in Fargo. And there's a long driving scene in the snow. It's very cold. And every time I watch that movie, I feel like I should be wearing a winter coat, because it's just, it's very cold. It's very cold up there in Fargo, which is up in North Dakota.
As opposed to the old classic Robin Williams movie, Club Paradise.
Right, and with that one, you probably want to get on some swim trunks and make sure you got plenty of ice in the cooler. But in Fargo, the ice is on the ground, and it's a very interesting film. I do recommend it, Jane.
Yes, watch. It'll be fun to do a double feature of that and Club Paradise. And I would have to say I'll have to check out Fargo. Thank you very much, and thanks for listening. Hey everybody, welcome to On Cinema. My name is Tim Heidecker. I'm your host. It's a podcast where we talk about movies and cinema. And my guest is one of the guests I've had on the show before. His name's Greg Turkington.
Hey guys.
Excuse me. This is a special episode. It's directed to William York, who donated $50 to the Red Cross, and we really do appreciate that. And
even though we don't get any of the money, but that's not what it's
well,
about.
if there was some kind of incident or accident that happened to us, we would hope to God that the Red Cross would be there for us.
And I would hope that it wouldn't be flooding of my apartment because I have a big collection of videos.
All right. Well, let me just jump in here and say we're going to be talking about Back to School, starring Rodney Dangerfield, the original comedian Rodney Dangerfield, known for some catchphrases as no respect and a few other obvious ones, but this is a really funny movie from the 80s. It's almost like a quintessential 80s comedy, right, Greg?
Yeah, and it's funny that his phrase was, I can't get no respect, because in this movie he does get respect. They made a whole movie based around him and his character, and it's an excellent movie. And I do recommend, Will, that you do check this movie out if you have a chance, if it's for sale at your local shop.
All right. That's Back to School, Rodney Dangerfield, and other actors from that era. Check it out on
Very funny.
Check it out on DVD and video if you have that. If you have access
I have
to
it on video.
All right. Thanks for listening. Hi, everybody. Welcome to On Cinema. It's a cinema podcast for movies. It's a site where I do on reviews for movies. And I have a guest today with Greg Turkington, who has been on the show before. Thanks for coming, Greg.
Hey, guys. Good to be here.
This is a special edition. We're going to be talking directly, really, to Ben Hagerstrom. I hope I'm getting that right.
The rap movie, Ben, with that Michael Jackson did the theme song from. It was an excellent movie.
No, this is the name of the gentleman who donated $50 to the Red Cross, one of our favorite organizations that we're so pleased to be in partnership with.
Okay.
And Ben requested that we review his favorite movie, Muppet Movie, from Muppets, from Jim Henson.
Oh, the Muppet Movie is a classic. And, that's one of those movies where you can sit down with your kids, if you have kids, and they'll like it, but you could also watch it with your adult friends because it appeals to all ages. And, of course, it stars Kermit the Frog.
Right. And a lot of other Muppets as well make appearances in Muppet Movie.
I think they're all in it.
What about, who's some of the humans in it? Is it Dabney Coleman, I believe?
Yeah, maybe Robin Williams might be in it. It's been a while.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. How you doing, everybody? My name is Tim Heidecker. You're listening to On Cinema, the On Cinema podcast featuring myself as your host, where we talk about different movies. And we got a special episode today because we're talking directly to Brad Dolan, Dolan, or Dolin, as it could be. Who knows how to pronounce it? And we're doing that because Red Cross, because Ben donated, or not Ben. Brad donated to Red Cross for $50. So we appreciate that. That's one of our favorite fundraising opportunities with Red Cross. And my guest, I forgot to mention, he's here. He's piped in already. You might know him better from our show On Cinema at the Cinema, is my guest, Greg Turkington.
Hey, guys. Hey, Brad. And hey to any of Brad's friends that he plays this for.
Well, let's talk about the movie Brad requested we review. It's called Lost in Translation.
Yes, a Japanese film. And this is not Godzilla. This is a little bit more serious. If you are a fan of Godzilla or some of those monster movies, you might want to sort of get your mind in a different place for this one. It's a little more serious than that. Not that those films weren't serious, but this is more
stars
of a drama.
American people as well. Bill Murray, for instance, is in this movie. And
From Meatballs. And also, what's her name? The good-looking actress.
Natalie Portman. Is it
No.
Natalie Portman? I don't have my email on me with the IMDb.
Yeah. Well, she's a real eye candy.
Yes.
So-
And it's almost a sad movie, isn't it?
It's almost sad, but it's also uplifting at the end because you do learn that life can be a good thing.
And life goes on. All right. Thanks very much. Thanks for listening. Hey, everybody. This is Tim Heidecker. I'm the host and creator, executive producer of On Cinema, podcast. It's a podcast where we talk about movies, and my guest today is Greg Turkington. Greg, thanks for coming on the show.
Well, thanks for having me, Tim. It's always a pleasure to share my expertise.
And this is a little different than our normal episode because this episode is directed exclusively to Steve Brecknell.
Steve, okay.
Steve is one of the great On Cinema listeners who donated 50 big ones to the Red Cross, and we really do appreciate that and thank him for that generous donation. I'm sure the money's being spent wisely.
Yes, it is. And Steve, if you got another $50, why don't you treat yourself with a few movies to add to your collection just to thank yourself for your nice donation to the Red Cross.
All right, well, Steve has got to be a little bit like you. 'Cause he must be a movie buff himself because the movie he picked is a little weird. It's a little out there on the fringe. It's called, you got to make sure I get this right, Killer Klownz from Outer Space.
Yes, Killer Klownz from Outer Space. That's a favorite movie of mine, actually. It's very funny. It's very scary. Imagine, if you will, that the aliens that were invading our planet were dressed like clowns, and I think you can see the potential for a lot of fun. And it is a lot of fun. It's a classic. It's a popcorn classic, and very highly rated.
All right. Well, I have not seen it, so I'm writing it on my list of my to-do list because I always get good recommendations when I do this stuff. I have a lot of movies like Flight to see this weekend, so I don't know if I'm going to get out to that. Maybe I borrow it from you and watch it over the next several months.
I actually have Killer Klownz on VHS, so I've
original format.
I've had it for about 15 years. It's one of the older tapes in my collection, and it still plays well. You know, you got to clean the heads of your VCR.
All right. Thank you for listening. Hey, everybody. My name is Tim Heidecker. I am the host of the On Cinema podcast, and you're listening to a special edition of 2, 3. I was still rolling. We're listening to On Cinema. Check 2. Oh, we're recording. Okay. My name is Tim Heidecker. You're listening to On Cinema. Check 1, 2. Yes. 2, 3. Hi, you're listening to On Cinema. My name is Tim Heidecker. I'm your host. And sorry for the technical difficulties, but we are making a special episode of On Cinema today. I got a big guest in the house. I'm talking about Mr. Greg Turkington. Greg, thanks for coming into the studio.
Hey guys, it's good to be here and to be putting my film expertise to good use because all the proceeds from this episode
I'm
go to the Red.
What I'm trying to say is this episode is for James Phillips, who donated $50 to Red Cross, and this is an episode directly for him. And his movie was called Asphalt Jungle.
Ooh, the Asphalt Jungle.
1950s.
That's a classic. If you've ever wanted to rob a bank or take part in a jewel heist, this is sort of the blueprint on how to do it and how to do it well. Mm-hmm. And of course, the real treat, the real eye candy, as it were, is Marilyn Monroe, who makes her first film appearance in this exciting, it's a dark film.
Yeah, I have to be honest with you. As much as I love Marilyn Monroe, and of course I have, my wife collects a lot of Marilyn Monroe stuff. I haven't seen any of her movies, and even the bigger ones. So this would be probably a good place to start.
Haven't seen Gentlemen Prefer Blondes?
No. So this would be a good place for me to start because I haven't seen this movie either.
It could be where she started, but I think if you're new to the Marilyn Monroe, you got to see the thing where with a subway blowing up her skirt.
Ah, yeah,
that's,
I've seen that
some
clip.
Eye candy.
I guess I've seen clips because we always watch those the DVDs of Great Moments from Hollywood's Past that my wife collects. Those DVDs
with like Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire,
so
and
there's
Charlie
always clip
Chaplin,
shows. Yeah,
Humphrey
and,
Bogart.
I actually recommend a great DVD that I just got recently through direct mail. Was the Leonard Maltin's 100 Greatest Films.
I don't always agree with him on the 100 best films, but I would probably agree with 90% of them.
Thanks for listening. Hello, my name is Tim Heidecker, and you're listening to the On Cinema podcast. This is a special edition of the podcast where we're providing this one episode directly to a man named Ben. Ben, we're doing this because you were so generous. I should introduce our guest, Greg Turkington.
Hey, guys. Hey, Ben.
You were so gracious in giving the $50 to the Red Cross. I'm sure it's being spent appropriately. I know all the people out there on the East Coast really do appreciate it. And you asked for something a little unique, and we always love unique things because I'll be honest, the entire anybody interested in writing or making movies that we love comes from having a unique perspective. That's
like George Lucas with his Star Wars films.
Well, we've received a link. I don't know how many times I've ever watched a movie off a link, but this one's called Captain Sick Pants, and it's from you, Ben. And we are only able to watch a little bit of the trailer. But Greg, what did you think of, just from what you saw from the trailer? What was your?
I think it's fantastic. I think it's great when you make a movie that has commercial potential. I wouldn't say that this has commercial potential, but if you've seen some of the early films of George Lucas or Steven Spielberg, you can see that they laid the foundation, and I think that's what we're seeing here. A great future filmmaker.
It takes a real sophisticated eye sometimes to see the beginnings of what could become a huge career. I didn't see it, I'll be honest with you, and I didn't see. It was a little too weird for me because I like movies that have sort of stars, and this didn't have any of that.
Well, I don't think Ben can afford Kevin Costner, but I'll tell you what, he might be able to afford the next Kevin Costner. I think if you look at some of the stars of his little film, you may see their names in the future.
Well, I guess we'll have to agree to disagree. That's what makes listening to On Cinema so great. Check out On Cinema at iTunes, and you can download the podcast there. Also, new episodes of On Cinema at the Cinema. It's on TV. It's on thingx.com. Thanks very much, and thanks for listening, Ben. Hi, everybody. This is Tim Heidecker, and you're listening to the On Cinema podcast. I'm the host, and I'm joined with me by Greg Turkington, a film buff and a friend of mine, and a guy who's been on the show many times before.
Glad to be on it again today.
To say thanks for being on the show.
Well, I was going to say I'm glad to be here.
Anyway, this show is a special episode. We're directing it directly to Heath Gardner. Heath, thanks for listening. Thanks for being a supporter and a friend of the show.
And I loved you in Brokeback Mountain.
That's not Heath Ledger, R.I.P. This is Heath Gardner.
Okay.
And I was almost going to say Chauncey Gardner from Being There. But
the great Peter Sellers.
Anyhow, thank you, Heath, for donating the $50 to the Red Cross. We appreciate it. You've requested, and I'm glad we're getting laughs out early because there's going to be more to come. Greg, the movie requested by Heath is none other than Kentucky Fried Movie.
Yes, that's a favorite of mine, Heath. If you like Kentucky Fried Movie, you should tune into a TV program called Saturday Night Live because I believe it was heavily influenced by this movie, which is a series of hilarious sketches that really have stood the test of time. I've actually owned 2 different copies of this on VHS with different covers. And the first one got water damage on it, and so I had to replace it with a second copy.
Well, this is really cool to be talking about this movie because it is the first movie from Zucker Brothers, and they are the 3 brothers that made movies like Airplane, and Airplane 2.
Airplane 2.
And they did Naked Gun and the Naked Gun 2. And remember I love this, they called Naked Gun 2, Naked Gun 2.5. And then they called Naked Gun 3, Naked Gun 33 and a third.
And if they'd ever had a sequel to this, which unfortunately they didn't, but if they had a sequel, they could have called it McNuggets.
Well, it's not our job to tell them to write they're better at writing the jokes than we are, probably. And they also did Dracula Dead and Loving It, I believe, with Leslie Nielsen. And,
who sadly passed away.
And Leslie Nielsen's not in this movie. A lot of people complain and say, why isn't he in this movie? Because he's in the other ones. But the truth is, I think this was before they even got a chance to work with him. So it's
And
almost
it's-
interesting to see what the Zucker brothers are capable of doing without Leslie Nielsen, because there's not really very many examples of that in their career, in their filmography.
But bless his soul, I don't think he would have added much to this movie. It's perfect as it is.
All right. Well, you picked a winner, and we appreciate all your support of the show and of the Red Cross. Of course, thanks you, and thanks for listening. Hey, this is On Cinema. You're listening to the On Cinema podcast. You're in the On Cinema Studios. And I am Tim Heidecker, one of the host of the show, and I have a pleasure to welcome Greg Turkington.
Hey guys, always good to be at On Cinema.
Yes, and we are having a special episode today because we're talking directly to the Jeremy King. Almost think of Burger King when I hear that. Jeremy King, thank you so much for your donation to the Red Cross.
And you're making me a little hungry too, so let's not mention lunch, because we're working
through lunch.
A lot of episodes here today to do. So.
And Jeremy, you gave a lot of money to the Red Cross, and we do appreciate it. I'm sure they appreciate it as much as we do. And something is just killing me here. I got to tell you, I'm just looking at Jeremy King's email address, and it's so funny because it's just been Halloween, so it's November 2nd now. And listen to this, Greg. His email address is Zombie Holocaust 2005.
Well, I'm glad it's not Zombie Holocaust 2012, because then
right.
we'd be in trouble. At least this one's in the past, and we all survived it.
Anyways, excuse me. The movie is Up the Academy.
Oh, I love this movie.
Tell me a little bit about this.
Well, have you ever seen National Lampoon's Animal House? This was sort of Mad Magazine's version of Animal House. It's all about a group of crazy guys in a private school and all the sexual hijinks that they get into, and it's a lot of fun. Laugh every 30 seconds.
All right. Well, I haven't seen it, but it sounds like my kind of movie. Reminds me, just based on the name, it almost reminds me of Police Academy.
It's got some parallels. I picked this up on videotape quite a few years ago, and then I got another copy, and on the other copy, didn't mention Mad Magazine anymore, so there was some sort of problem with that.
Thanks for listening. Hi, everybody. This is Tim Heidecker. You're listening to On Cinema. It's the On Cinema podcast. It's a podcast where we talk about On Cinema. We talk about movies that are out. We don't talk about On Cinema. That's the name of the show.
Well, we do sometimes.
Okay, my guest is Greg Turkington, one of the stars or one of the guests on the show we've had before.
Hey guys, nice to be here. It's a nice day here at the On Cinema
Anyways,
studio.
I want to talk about a very special episode that we're doing today. It's a special episode for Aaron Phillips, who donated $50 of his own money to the Red Cross. So
From the heir to the Phillips 66 fortune.
Or Phillips colon care.
Milk of magnesia.
Yes.
Either way, he's loaded, and we appreciate him sharing some of the wealth.
Or Phillips from Mamas and Papas.
John Phillips.
Anyways, Aaron Phillips' movie is Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Oh.
I thought that was... I'm familiar with this show as a show. I didn't realize they had made a movie.
There was a movie, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, you got to give it credit, but I think the premise, if I can get a little controversial here, Aaron, I don't like people talking over movies. To me, movies are sort of sacred ground, and you don't interrupt what the filmmaker's trying to do. And when I went to see Star Wars 1, The Phantom Menace, The second time I saw it, there were people behind me talking and making fun
That's
of the
annoying.
movie. And, I'm sorry, I don't believe in that. Let the film criticism take place on a show like this and not in the theater itself.
Not while the movie's going on. And my question is always like, how can you even judge something until it's over? I mean, maybe if you're making fun of something, well, maybe there's a real point to that, and that point can only be determined throughout watching the rest of them by watching the rest of the
Exactly, a trick ending.
I don't think I agree with you, and I always thought that show was in bad taste, and I think that, yes, some movies are not as good as other movies, of course, but, I just think it's mean-spirited to go out and tease and mock these directors for doing the best they could because sometimes you don't have all the money that you could have used to make a movie. So shame on the filmmakers behind Mystery Science Theater.
Well,
and wouldn't it be a table-turning scenario if some real film critics like Leonard Maltin and Roger Ebert and the like got together and ganged up on them and mocked their movie, sort of a through the looking glass moment for sure.
That would be very interesting.
Thanks for listening. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of On Cinema, the podcast where we talk about movies and different kinds of movies and give you a little insight onto what kind of movies they are. My guest is the film buff that I work with occasionally, and he's been on the show before. His name is Greg Turkington.
Hey guys, good to be here and raising money for a great cause.
And I want to thank my audience of one today. It's a little bit different than usual. We're having just one audience member. Is Kevin Ackley.
Kevin.
And hey Kev, thanks for listening, and thank you for your $50 donation to the Red Cross. I'm sure everybody there appreciates it almost as much as we do here at the On Cinema family. So sending out big positive vibes to you and your family, and it's very karmic, isn't it? Because who knows if something bad should happen to you. I know that it'll feel good. You'll feel good that knowing what you did for these people, and hopefully in return there will be you'll have great success.
And no flooding, because nothing damages videotapes more than flooding. Even if the tapes themselves don't get wet,
fire would
the mildew in the carpet can cause the paper boxes to decay.
Fire would not be
or fire.
either. So anyhow, Kevin, you did not suggest a movie to watch or to review, so we're forced to go into our bin and find. We have a bin where we can, or a small bowl that we put in the top 50 movies based on Leonard Maltin's book, and we are going to just pick one out at random and see what we get.
All right. Because you were supposed to suggest a movie.
All right, here we go. Titanic.
Oh!
With
you hit the jackpot. That's one of my favorite movies.
That's one of the best movies ever made, and one of the most popular movies ever made.
And sometimes one of the top grossing.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I mean by top popular, because there's it's really rare when you have a movie that's also the best movie ever made, but is popular as well. So kudos to James Cameron and all the cast for doing a terrific job. And this is, of
Kate
course,
Winslet.
That's why, yeah. And there's so many great action scenes, but it is a love story ultimately, and is a true story and a tragedy. So
and great special effects. I wanted to be sure and mention that.
All right. Well, this won an Oscar, and it deserved it. Thanks for listening. Hey everybody, this is the On Cinema podcast. Thank you for listening. My name is Tim Heidecker. I am the host, and we got a pretty cool show for you today. It's a special show. I got a guest with me. His name is Greg Turkington.
Hey guys.
And he's a film buff and knows a lot about movies. This is a special episode of One, or a special audience of One. Pardon me, gas. Tim Flynn is listening in the house. Tim Flynn in the house from Flint, Michigan. And we really appreciate your $50 donation to the On Cinema family. I'm sorry, to Red Cross. I wish we had a $50 donation to keep this thing running.
Yes.
But right now, more other people need it more than we do, and we're so happy to help. And in partnership with the Red Cross, what an honor it is to be partners with such a well-respected and wonderful group of people. Very famous. And they do a great job what they do. And providing blood and water for victims of tragedy. So Tim Flynn from picked the movie Godfather II. Picked the movie Godfather II, I should say. Greg, have you seen this movie?
Yeah, I have seen it. I was gonna have to say I was a little disappointed. I still loved it, but Sofia Coppola is not really what I'm looking for in a Godfather movie. To cast her rather than a known actress, I think, was a real mistake, and Andy Garcia, and it just didn't really have the sting of the original Godfather with Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando is greatly missed.
Well, listen, in the original, you have Marlon Brando, Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, Robert Duvall, all these great actors.
Duvall's in this one.
And they show all the different, they take you from way back into the past, into the present, and it's such an amazing movie that spans many, many, many years. And then when you have the second one come, there's just this smaller story that isn't as vast. And it's like, well, why couldn't you have crammed in, if you wanted to tell that part of the story, just cram it all into one movie, and as they did in the first one. So,
and Al Pacino just looks, not well. He looks very old. He's aged so much since the first Godfather movie. And that's a little disturbing because he's one of our national treasures.
The one thing that I have to say I liked about Godfather 2 was it was shorter than the first Godfather. Godfather original went on forever, and it was
several
good.
discs.
It was good. It was good, but it was not as you really had to devote a whole day to it almost to get through it. But Godfather 2 went by much quicker. So, and if you like Joe Montoya, or you'll love this movie.
And if you like eye candy, I guess you would have to consider Sofia Coppola as a little bit of eye candy.
All right. Well, Godfather 2 getting mixed reviews from the On Cinema family. All the best. And thanks again, Tim. Take care. Thanks for listening. Hi, everybody. You're listening to the On Cinema podcast. My name is Tim Heidecker. I'm your host. I have a special guest with me today. His name is Greg Turkington.
Hey, guys. Good to be here, as always.
Well, you should actually say just Guy, because this episode is directed at one man. His name is Ben Boyer. And the reason we're sending this to Ben is because he donated $50 to American Red Cross. And we really do appreciate that, Ben. And I'm positive that the people on the East Coast and Red Cross themselves feel the same way.
And Ben, is there any relation between you and Charles Boyer, one of the great old actors from the black and white era?
Okay. His movie is called Times Square from 1980, directed by Alan Moyle. This doesn't ring a bell to me. Greg, have you seen this movie?
That's why you have an expert on the show, because it does ring a bell with me. I have seen the movie many times. It's sort of a personal favorite. It's all about the healing power of music. And if you've ever wanted to start a band or see what it's like to be in the busy world of music, this could be your movie.
All right. I don't have any memories of Times Square to remember. Except that I do watch the ball drop occasionally. Is that in the movie?
Well, no, but it does star Mr. Tim Curry. If you've seen the Rocky Horror Show, you'll know who I'm talking about.
Right.
He was the star Frank Infurter in the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and that's a personal favorite of the On Cinema gang.
All right. Well, Times Square getting a incomplete from me because I'll have to put that on my to-do list of movies to check out.
You can revisit it later.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many on my list, but this one sounds pretty exciting and pretty interesting. And you're giving it how many stars?
I would give it, if it's 5 stars, I'd give it 5. If it's 4 stars, I'll give it 4.
All right. Thanks for listening. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. This is On Cinema, and I usually say thanks for listening at the end, so I'm going to say it again at the end. My name is Tim Heidecker, and we're doing a podcast here about movies. It's called On Cinema, and thank you so much for listening. My guest is a film buff in his own right and a film historian, I suppose, Mr. Greg Turkington.
Thank you, and it's always good to be here and sharing the information that I've gleaned from my years as a film buff.
Well, we got a special episode today. It's actually usually radio broadcasters don't do this. They usually the whole expression broadcast is referring to the millions of people that they be speaking with. In this case, I'm speaking to only one man. His name is Tim Brenner. And I'm doing this with Greg here because, Tim, you donated a generous amount of money, $50, to the wonderful American Red Cross. We appreciate that, and I'm sure the Red Cross does as well. And you were saying off air, Greg, you had some joke about his name, or
Tim Brenner, I was just, it's not a joke, it's a question, but is there any relation to David Brenner, who is one of the top comedians in the business? And he's been in quite a few movies, too.
Right, so who knows? But interesting to find that out, whether or not he is related to David Brenner. And David Brenner didn't show up in a lot of movies, necessarily.
He was in a few.
Been in more than us, I suppose. Anyhow, today Tim Brenner wants to talk about the movie Blade Runner.
Oh,
one of the original sci-fi movies from Ridley Scott.
And Harrison Ford, who we know from Star Wars, Chewbacca.
Well, this one is a really slow, kind of dark, disturbing, not fun, and not really that dramatic, not very full of action. Kind of just labors on and doesn't really go anywhere for a while. And then there are robots, I guess, or clones.
Mm-hmm. And they're trying to escape from...
Oh. That's not the one where they escape. There's the one issue with the...
they're trying to escape from New York.
Well,
that's Escape from New York. This is a different movie.
I think, we don't need to explain it to Tim because he obviously has seen this movie. Otherwise, he wouldn't be requesting it. The point I made was that it's a very dark and boring movie. But some people like boring movies because that's maybe reflects their life, or maybe that's just it's even less. Maybe their life is so boring that it's less boring than their life is, so it becomes exciting to them. I don't know. I
just totally confuse this with Escape from New York, which is not boring at all. That's actually a very thrilling movie.
All right. Well, Blade Runner getting mixed reviews from the On Cinema family. Thanks for listening.
It's a favorite.
Thanks for listening. Hi, everybody. This is the On Cinema podcast. My name is Tim Heidecker. I am the host. It is my show. I created it from scratch. I do, a lot of people obviously do their own podcast. This one I do as part of my commitment to talking about film and being a part of the cinematic community. And without film appreciators as I am, it would be a one-way street, and people would only be making movies, and there would be an audience, but there wouldn't be people talking about the movies. Anyways, people ask me why I do this, and that's why. So I have a great guest with me today. He's been on the show before, and he knows more about movies than even I do. It is Greg Turkington.
Hey, guys. Good to be here, Tim, and that was very well put.
Thank you. I think some people forget that Well, what I said earlier, you could listen back, but some people do forget those facts. And we have a very special episode today. This episode is going directly to Demi, and I'm going to just try to get the last name here. My eyesight is
Demi
not
Moore?
great. No, I wish. Kazanis. Kazanis. And we're happy to do it because Demi donated a lot of money to the Red Cross. Actually, you're not going to believe this, Greg. We asked people to donate $50, and Demi donated, I wish I had a drum roll, $500.
Wow. Okay.
And I'm almost wondering, I hope she didn't put the decimal point in the wrong place.
$500 buys a lot of blankets and soap and things like that.
So 3 cheers to Demi for her wonderful donation and her appreciation and respect for us and for the On Cinema podcast.
And how about instead of 3 cheers, we do 3 reviews?
Sounds good to me. Demi requested 3 movies, and I think she's earned it. I mean, she technically could get 10 reviews from the amount of money she donated, but we're just going to do 3.
Well, I've got time to do 10.
We'll do 3, and the first one is 9 to 5.
Oh, yes, with Dabney Coleman. And, of course, Lily Tomlin and Dolly Parton.
And this is sort of one of the original women's comedies, I guess, with the song. You had original music from Dolly Parton with the song Working 9 to 5. And very classic, funny, great performances. And the song had to have been a #1 hit when it came out.
And they're all secretaries. I can't remember the third woman, but maybe Sally Field. It's been a while since I've seen the picture.
I think it was Faye Dunaway.
Faye Dunaway was a little old for that one.
Well, let's think. How many female actresses could there have been?
I think Sally Field.
It wasn't Sally Field because she was in
Jane Fonda?
Murphy's Romance. Wasn't Jane Fonda? Let me look up because we should get it right. We don't want to send out, especially since Demi is a woman, I assume.
Who was Meryl Streep?
Was it Meryl Streep? I'll put in 9 to 5 in my Google. 9 to 5.
Marsha Mason.
Hold on, 9 to 5. There's a TV show.
Dabney Coleman. It was Dabney Coleman.
No, I'm looking at this. Sally Struthers.
No, I don't.
Oh, that's the TV show version of the movie. That's not fair that comes up first.
And it's funny. I've seen the movie so many times, and I just don't remember. But it's a movie you can get easily. If Demi, you don't have it, I would check flea markets and things because the VHSs are.
It's it's Sally Struthers again. What the heck?
But you can get it on VHS for under $10.
The next movie we're talking about, something I know a little bit more about than 9 to 5, is Forrest Gump. One of the Tom Hanks' greatest roles. Actually, probably Tom Hanks' greatest role.
He won 2 Oscars for this one, and he deserved it because he played sort of a man with 2 personalities, split personality, and sort of his journey throughout American history. And very interesting concept. Experimental, but very popular.
Yeah, this was, I remember distinctly seeing this movie when I was a bit younger. It came out about 15 years ago or so. And I was just, I remember feeling this, that really special moment where you realize you've just seen a work of art and you've seen something so wonderful. It was almost like a gift from the gods. And just manna from heaven. And I actually recall, because I love movies, I still do, but I did at that time, I wrote the director, Robert Zemeckis, a very long and detailed letter about how that movie changed my life. And it did change my life. It's a really important movie for me because it showed me, there's a line in the movie everyone quotes, that life is just a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. And when I heard that, I get kind of emotional talking about it because that spoke to me in ways that I can't even express. And it's such an important movie for me. And it's not a split personality. He's the same character throughout. That's why they call it Forrest Gump. And people make fun of it, and people make fun of me because I consider it. It's on my list as number one movie of all time because
Well, I don't think anyone makes fun of you for that.
well, I get made fun of by my family about it because over Christmas they all want to watch Christmas movies like Christmas Carol, and I say let's watch Gump, and people get bummed out because they've seen it so many times, and it is long. So
And
it's
he's
an important
an
movie
inventor, and sort of throughout history, he's the guy that comes up with the bumper sticker. He's the guy. They say you can't reinvent the wheel, but I believe that this character in a way did reinvent the wheel, and this movie reinvented the wheel of cinema because it was very influential.
I agree. So that's my review. I give it as hundreds of stars. If you could give it 100 stars, I'd give it 100 stars, and I'd give it all the thumbs in the world. You know, I couldn't say more nice things about this movie, and I actually have on my desk a little. You can see it here, Greg. It's a little amulet, little bronzed amulet that says it's written very small, the size of a coin, but it says, "Life is a box of chocolates." And can we turn the? We have to. We have a helicopter flying over here, and there's nothing I can do about it. But that's
Well, hopefully they're dropping copies of Forrest Gump onto the public.
But this is what
'cause,
happens.
It's a fun movie.
This is what happens because I have a temper problem, and I get really angry about situations, and I always remember I have my amulet here, and it says, "Life is a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get." This was just the kind of a piece of chocolate that I don't care for. People with these helicopters that ruin our show. So I apologize for that sound, but we're not going to go back and re-record because I'm not going to.
No,
because I liked what I had to say earlier.
It was heartfelt. And Tim, you didn't mention something that I hoped I kind of thought would come up, which was that earlier this year on your birthday, I got you a gift card from Bubba Gump's, which is sort of a chain based on the movie. And I knew how much you love the movie, and I got you this gift card. And I hope you had a great meal there.
I did.
Because the waiters all act like Forrest Gump, and it's a neat place.
I love that place. I love the food. To be honest with you, a $10 gift certificate doesn't get you a ton of food there. So I kind of had to wait for the right opportunity, and it was a little embarrassing. But anyways, the third movie is Just One of the Guys.
With Christy McNichol and, God.
This is a transvestite-style movie where a woman dresses up like a boy or a man to play on football.
No, I don't think so. This is with Christy McNichol and George Burns, I think.
All right. Well, either way, we both I enjoy this movie, and it's fun when it's on TV.
If it's the right movie.
Yeah, it's the one where the George Burns
and Christy McNichol, who turned 50 this year.
Thanks again for listening, Demi. We really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Christy McNichol. Show.
We'll see. Hi, everybody. This is the On Cinema podcast. You're listening live, or not live, but as listening to whenever you're listening to it. And my name is Tim Heidecker. I'm the guest. I'm the host, and I'm joined by my guest, Greg Turkington.
Hello, everybody.
Actually, not everybody. This is an episode devoted to one man, and it's for one man's ears only. It's for Stephen Lancaster. From Buffalo, actually. Buffalo, New York.
Any relation to Burt Lancaster from the Escape from Alcatraz?
It's a good question. Birdman of Alcatraz, actually. And,
Burtman of Alcatraz.
Anyways,
Burt Lancaster.
The movie today in discussion is Gomorra by Matteo Garrone. That sounds like a foreign movie. An Italian movie, even. Greg?
Gomorra is a classic. It's based on the book, and it's a little bit dark. Mm-hmm. I would say this is a dark film. If you're looking for something more lighthearted, you wouldn't want to take your kids to this. This has a lot of murders and violence and money laundering and that sort of thing.
I mean, if you're going to see an Italian movie, I haven't seen this movie, so I can't really tell you. But from your description, I always recommend any movie by Roberto Benigni, who does the clown style movies with Pinocchio and whatnot. He did a movie, I don't know if you've heard of this, called Life is Beautiful, which is what it says. It's actually the movie should have been called "This Movie Is Beautiful" because it's a beautiful, sad but funny movie about the Holocaust, and he's incredible in it. I don't know if Greg, it's one of your favorite movies or not, but it's one of mine.
It's one of my favorites. So is Gomorra. I mean, once you get past the darkness and the fact that there is going to be some bloodshed, it's a very interesting movie. I'd recommend ordering pizzas all around and sitting back and enjoying this film.
Well, I'm not recommending it. I'm recommending Life is Beautiful. Thanks for listening. Hey, everybody. This is the On Cinema Podcast. You're listening to the On Cinema Podcast. My name is Tim Heidecker, and I am the host, and it's my show. It's sort of my brainchild. Been doing it almost a year now and really enjoy doing it and enjoy talking about some of my favorite movies. Got a great guest with me today. He's been on the show before, and it's always fun to hear what he has to say, Mr. Greg Turkington.
Hey guys, looking forward to yet another episode of this podcast.
Yes, and we've got a very special one today. We're doing this episode especially for the one and only Lance Hendron. Lance Hendron, I suppose, and kind of reminds me of the old Max Headroom characters from when I was from TV.
Mm-hmm. Classic. Max Headroom is one of the classic programs for kids, and even as an adult, it does have its appeal.
Well, Lance, we do appreciate all your donations and the $50 donation in particular you gave to the Red Cross, and that's why you're getting this episode. The movie you asked us to review, it's actually come up earlier for us, is Just One of the Guys from 1985.
And I have to admit, Lance, that we had gotten this from another donation, and I confused it for a different movie with Christy McNichol.
You tell this story because this is funny.
Well, there's a movie with Christy McNichol called Just the Way You Are, and I had been watching that about 6 months ago, and I reviewed this movie thinking it was that movie, and so I do apologize to the person that gets that. But now I know the movie that we're talking about, Just One of the Guys, and it's definitely not starring Christy McNichol. It's starring a different lead actress, and it's a comedy.
It's a gender comedy. It's a movie of sort of playing with the notion of men versus women and what it's like to compete in this sort of the gender politics of sport. It's a movie I've seen several times. I've watched it with my wife because she's a fan of the movie and she always has girls' night. And this is a movie that comes up a lot. Also, The Princess Bride, for some reason. They love The Princess Bride. And so they both kind of alternate between then and also the 50 Greatest Moments of Hollywood by Leonard Maltin, his video. I can't recommend enough. If you're looking for just a fun look at movies you might have forgotten about, check out that.
But I thought this was a great movie. I mean, it's a classic, but I just don't believe that you could get undressed in the locker room and somebody's not going to notice that you're not one of the guys. To me, that's a little bit far-fetched, but didn't get in the way of enjoying the movie. It was a lot of fun.
All right. Thanks for listening. Hey, everybody, listen. Thanks for listening to On Cinema. Oh, I got a phone call coming in. Hello?
Jay, what you doing?
Who's this?
Luke.
Hello, who's this?
It's Luke. Is it James?
Huh?
Is it James?
I can't understand you.
Hello. I said it's James. Can you understand me now?
I can hear you, but I can't ask who you're asking for. Strange stuff coming in. I get a lot of these calls, a lot of mixed numbers. Anyways, where was I? Listening. Did I introduce you, Greg? Greg Turkington's in the house.
It's kind of funny that a guy who calls in the middle of the show gets more of an introduction than I do. But
Here comes the number again.
Okay.
Here it comes again. Hello? Hello?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
I asked was this James' number. If it isn't, I'll erase it.
Yeah, this is a different guy. I don't know who you're trying to get in touch with.
Yeah, tell him it's a podcast and that we're recording the podcast.
Yeah, we're recording a
trying
podcast right now, so I had to stop record. I continued to record, but at this point, I just want to clear the air.
Go ahead. You ain't James, are you?
Huh?
Is your name James?
No, it's Tim.
James is the guy that donated to the Red Cross.
Actually, we're talking to somebody who donated to Red Cross named James Baltimore.
Oh. Okay.
You know what I mean?
What's going on? Okay.
Anyways, thanks for calling anyway. What's your favorite? What's your favorite film? No.
Okay, well.
I thought maybe we can get a sort of a man on the street vibe going. Anyway, that was a little interesting. James, if you're still listening, your favorite movie is called Gooby P.I.'s Hunja Siapi. You know this one?
Yes, this is an animated feature, which it wasn't a big hit, but it did make the rounds, and it's quite funny.
I think when you look back on animated movies, this is not going to be on anybody's top 20 or top 30. But it certainly has some heart to it, and it's kind of silly and goofy, and I think for some kids it's going to be a lot of fun. But I'm going to go with movies like the great Aladdin with Robin Williams doing the voice, and
or the Jetsons. Did you see the Jetsons movie from it must have been 1990? That was, it wasn't the best. I prefer this to the Jetsons, I'd have to say, but Aladdin is gonna outdo them all.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. Hey everybody, you're listening to On Cinema. It's a podcast where we talk about movies, different kinds. I talk about movies. I'm the host. It's my show. And my guest today is none other than one of the guests we've had on several times before. He's a good friend and a film buff / historian, Mr. Greg Turkington.
Hey guys, thanks, and it's nice to be here on a sunny day.
All right. Well, we got a very special episode today. It's going out to one man, and his name is Davin Swanson. And almost a David Swanson, but you don't see the name Davin very often. I have a friend named Davin, but this is Davin, D-A-V-I-N, Swanson.
And I have a frozen turkey dinner in my freezer called Swanson. So
no, you
it's just a coincidence.
I guess it is. Anyway, pleasure to do this for you, and thank you so much for your. This is throwing me for a bit of a loop. This is a $100 donation.
Oh,
this was twice the amount we asked for, and unfortunately, that does not mean you're getting 2 reviews.
Well,
but
I'd be happy to talk about a second picture.
All right. Well, that's something you could talk to David Davin about at some other point, I suppose. So we got a lot of these to get through. Thanks you very much. Our review is for Elephant Man.
Yes, this is actually one of my favorite movies, and I've seen it many times. And the reason I've seen it many times is it's a classic. When you find a movie that really sort of speaks to you, as this one did, there's no reason not to own your own copy. And I did buy a copy of this many years ago, and I treasure it to this day.
Well, here's my issue with it. Do I like horror movies? Yes. Do I like scary movies? Yes. Did I like this movie? No. And I'll tell you why. It is not in black and it is in black and white, and it's not from an old time period. So they had the ability. The reason people don't understand this, but the movies that are made in black and white were made because they had to be in black and white because of the technology. But in the 50s, when color became accessible, if you do your research and find that color became easier to make, then you see all movies made in color, right? So if you look at the date on Elephant Man, it's in the 80s that movie was made. So they had access to it, and then they don't use it for whatever reason. It's probably because of saving money, but it's not a good movie because they don't use the technology of the times that's available to them. That's my opinion.
Well, I mean, that's a valid point, and I don't disagree, but if you look at what the movie's about, and this is where it gets complicated. If you look at what the movie's about, it's about a man who looks like an elephant. Elephants are gray, so what's the point of wasting? It's not a jaguar man or a giraffe man. If that's then when you have those animals, or say a lorikeet or a parrot or something, one of these birds that are these tropical birds, like a toucan.
That's bull, and I'll tell you why.
You don't need color to portray an elephant.
The movie The Gray, for example, that just came out with Liam Neeson is in color. The classic Disney animated spectacular cartoon Dumbo about an elephant is in color.
That's a cartoon, though. No one wants a black and white cartoon.
Well, they did with Disney with Mickey Mouse and Steamboat Willie because of the technology. But once you have the technology to make color, but you're not listening to me. Once you have the technology to have color, it's sort of like, would you want to see a silent movie?
No, but maybe there was a strike. You don't know what was going on that week. Maybe they planned, they had the best intentions, and then there was a strike, and all they could get was black and white photographers.
All right. Well, I have to do more research, but I doubt that's the case. And I give it 0 stars. Sorry.
Well, I give it 10 stars because I like a good story about a man who's disabled physically.
Well, if you want to do that, watch Forrest Gump. Thanks for listening. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. This is the On Cinema Podcast, and I'm your host, Tim Heidecker. My guest today is none other than film buff and film historian Greg Turkington.
Hey, guys. I just wanted to mention that this year would mark the 100th birthday of Peter Sellers. And so that's kind of exciting. Hopefully, we'll be talking more about Peter Sellers and Pink Panther.
All right. Well, listen, this
Doctor
is a special...
Strange.
Let's not get... bear down in that. My guest is actually my audience today is a little different. It's not the usual audience of thousands that listen every week. It is one man named Kurt Orzek. I hope I'm saying that right. Kurt donated $50 to On Cinema or to the Red Cross, and we appreciate that donation. And for that honor and for doing that wonderful thing, pardon me. We are going to be reviewing a movie called 2016, Obama's America. There's a documentary that just came out, a very compelling documentary that I am so glad. This was not my choice. Kurt, you can vouch for it. You sent this to me as your request. This was such a great movie. It is so important.
Well, it's not a movie. It's a documentary. And
What is the distinction?
Well, a movie, you have actors, you've got a plot, you've got a reason to watch.
Dramatic movies, you have actors. They're both movies. I want to say, if you haven't seen 26, have you seen it yet?
No, I haven't watched it. It's not a movie. God. It's a documentary, and that's not my area of expertise. Documentaries are essentially news programs and not movies. If you don't have
all right, well then you don't have anything to say
script,
here.
If you don't
have anything to say. Here's what I want to say. This is the most important movie of the year, probably
it's not.
Of the past.
Because it's not a movie. The new Hobbit movie. Now that's going to be the most important movie.
It's going to be the most successful movie. It might be the best movie of the year, but the most important movie of the year to see before November 7th when we vote
is
for
The Hobbit.
president
If you have advanced screening to see The Hobbit.
All right. Well, listen, Kurt, I know you. If you're sending me this movie, I know you probably feel the same way. It's essential. It's eye-opening. It's unbelievable. I don't know who you're voting for, Greg, but before you go to the ballot, just take an hour and a half. No, quiet. Just open your ears and eyes to the message in 2016. You're going to be blown away, and you'll thank me later when you cast a vote.
I'm voting for more movies, and movies like The Hobbit or the new Star Wars movie that's been in the news, and less quote-unquote movies on the screen, at the cinemas where people go to relax, unwind, and have a laugh.
All right,
or
that
get
you've taken up enough time talking about
putting something like this on a screen is like turning over the
Okay.
streets to wild animals and
I
elephants.
disagree. Thank
and-
you very much for listening. Thanks for listening. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. This is On Cinema Podcast, and it's a cinema podcast where we talk about movies, our favorite movies. And I'll introduce my guest. My guest's name is Greg Turkington. Greg, thanks for coming on the show.
Hey guys, good to be here, and always good to be here. In fact,
Thanks for saying that. It's a special guest, special episode today. We've got this is directed directly to one man only. I believe this is a man. I'm not sure. I assume it's a man named Raj Jawa, and I hope I'm saying that last name right, Raj. And if I'm not, my apologies. Raj, you've picked an independent movie. We usually don't do independent movies, but we're going to do it anyways for you. It's a movie called Love, Liza, starring Philip Seymour Hoffman, if I'm not mistaken.
yes, a very interesting film that I did happen to see.
Okay, well, why don't you tell us a little bit about it? Has nothing to do with Liza Minnelli, I assume.
No. Although she was great in Cabaret, if you haven't seen that one,
I have.
about the Nazis, and it's a big musical.
It was actually based on a musical.
Okay, well, it's that's a great movie. That actually won the Oscar. This one didn't win the Oscar. Probably the theme of sniffing paint thinner is a little bit too far out for the Oscar voters. So they did shut it out the year that the film was made, and that's too bad because it is a very serious film, a very interesting look at the addiction that I wouldn't say a lot of people have, but you do have people who sniff paint thinner and things like that.
All right, thanks for listening. Hey, everybody, this is the On Cinema Podcast, and I am so happy to tell you that you're listening live, and we're having a great time putting the show together for you. My name is Tim Heidecker. I am the host, and it's my show, and so pleased to be here talking to you guys. My guest is none other than Greg Turkington. Thanks for joining me, Greg.
Hey guys, thanks for being our listeners.
I was going to say,
thanks for having me.
We should only say that there's one listener today, and his name is Garrett Herder. I wonder if he's involved with sheep.
Yeah, well, or if he's related to Garrett Morris, who was one of the original not ready for primetime players.
Can you name them all? I bet you can't. Ready? From the original cast
Yep.
now.
Bill Murray.
Nope.
Bill Murray was
No, he was not in the original cast. Chevy
Yeah.
Chase, Dan Aykroyd, Garrett Morris, Jane Morris,
and Bill Murray and Gilda Radner.
and Gilda Radner,
And Bill Murray.
and not Bill Murray.
Yeah, Bill Murray was definitely one of
No,
the
he
originals.
came in second season because Chevy Chase left. Dan Aykroyd, Jane Morris, Robert. You said his name before. Garrett Morris and Lorraine Newman and Chevy Chase. Those are the 5 original not ready for primetime players. Look
Well,
it up.
and Bill Murray was there in the first season as well. He was one of the first to come in and one of the first to leave, and to make great movies like Lost in Translation, Meatballs, and a lot of others. And
All right. Well, we're not here to talk about that. That's just a coincidence. We can look that up on the internet, and you'll see that I'm right. Anyways, the movie in discussion today thank you, by the way, for the big donation to the American Red Cross for 50 big ones. I know it's going to a great place. You're doing a great thing. You should be proud of yourself, and you should celebrate yourself tonight, perhaps with a night at home with a favorite movie like this one.
Or the first season of Saturday Night Live, and you'll see Bill Murray on that.
And we're talking about Mulholland Drive.
Oh, wow, that's a good choice. That's actually one of my favorite movies. David Lynch, who, if you've ever seen The Elephant Man, you know he's capable of going to some very dark places. And I don't know what the lighting is like on the real Mulholland Drive, but the lighting in this movie is very dark and sinister and scary. And some strange things happen, some twists and turns, and it eventually leads to a good place, which is one of the all-time great classics.
All right. This movie is not one of my favorites. It's too weird and it doesn't have a heart. So I'm not going to give it any stars. I'll give it 2 stars just because I respect the filmmaking. Thanks for listening. Hey, everybody. This is the On Cinema Podcast. My name is Tim Heidecker, and we're doing a podcast here with my guest, Greg Turkington. Greg, thanks for joining me on the show. And we are
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Okay, and we're talking directly to old Matt Coleman here. Matt, thanks for listening, and thanks for being a part of the On Cinema family. You are officially an On Cinema family member, especially not only because you are a listener, and we appreciate you listening, but you are so generous in your $50 donation to the Red Cross. I can't say enough about that. Your movie that you wished us to review is Oldboy.
Oh, with Robin Williams and John Travolta. Oh, wait a minute. Old Dogs.
Old Dogs.
Okay, now Oldboy is oh, okay.
This is a Chinese movie from Chan Park Woke, and it's really pretty intense and pretty upsetting, actually. Not my kind of
Yes.
movie. If you want to know, I don't know if I can go ahead and recommend this movie because of how violent it can be. I think you were right on the money, Greg, at the top of the show when you said Old Dogs. I think there is a scene, I believe, with Japanese men in it, if that's what you're looking for. And but not only that, it does have tremendous performances from Robin Williams and John Travolta. And it's funny, and it's from Disney, and it's got a heart, which is one of the reasons I love the movie. So it is irreverent if that's you're looking for kind of a weird thing.
And it does, even Old Dogs does have some violence, which there's a little bit too much violence in this movie. Some people, that's their cup of tea or their broken cup of tea. But in Old Dogs, you also have the scene where the woman, I can't remember her name, but she slams her hand in the car trunk. And which is very painful.
Right. So put the old boy away and trade it in for some old dogs. You'll be glad you did. Thanks for listening. Hey everybody, welcome to On Cinema, the On Cinema podcast where we talk about our favorite movies and more. So happy to have you with us and listening live. And my guest is Greg Turkington. Greg, thanks for coming on the show.
Hey guys, it's good to be here, and especially today where we're doing these special episodes.
I'll explain this special episode. 2, 3. And thank you. This is a different episode where we are just directing our attention to one man or woman, depending on who they are. This is one of those names where you never know if it's a man or woman. Bo. Teague. Bo Teague, almost like a boutique that you might see in a movie like Pretty Woman or the movie where the mannequin comes to life called Mannequin.
Which was actually had a great soundtrack.
Anyways, Bo, thank you for joining us. I should have another drum roll here because this is another big spender. We have a $100 donation.
Oh, that entitles him to 2 movie reviews.
Yes, but we're going to give him one, and the review is going to be Buffalo 66, starring Christina Ricci and Ben Gazzara and the woman from Angelica Houston. Mm-hmm. And directed by the guy from not Ben Affleck.
Vincent Gallo
Yes.
is the director and the writer too. So you have to call him sort of a Renaissance man, and sometimes you get guys like that. Orson Welles comes to mind, and Steven Spielberg as people that can just do it all and do it all well. And you have to tip your hat to them, and we hope that there'll be many more movies from
A lot
these
of
guys.
people thought that this movie was going to be set in the 60s and that would be a period piece, a little bit like the Tom Hanks movie, That Thing You Do, which was about a Beatle-y kind of group. The movies I find that are about the 60s, like Flashback with Dennis Hopper, or
Kiefer Sutherland was great in that.
There's so many fun movies that look back on the 60s sort of with nostalgia that I love, in the show
Grease
The Wonder Years,
2.
Grease 2, and the Beatlemania movie where they sort of track along the experience with what it would be like to be one of the Beatlemaniacs as the Beatles come to town. That's a movie that always brings back fond memories. This in particular, though, is set in present tense, and it's a bit of a disturbing movie. Some people classify it as a comedy. I don't see it necessarily as a comedy. A lot of nastiness in it. But if you like the music of Yes, there's a musical sequence where the music of Yes is performed. So it's got something for maybe not everybody, but certainly a lot of people can enjoy it. Not my kind of movie.
Well, I did want to mention that this movie has adult themes, and it's strange these days that you could be a 12-year-old kid and go to a flea market, and if you got a couple bucks in your pocket, these guys will sell you this movie, and they really shouldn't. They should show some responsibility. I think when you can't have a ratings board at every stand at the flea market, but really it's up to the seller to make sure that the buyer is old enough to see the movie. And in this case, I'd have to say you should probably be 18 years of age, and it would be irresponsible to sell this thing to a child.
Interesting stuff. Thanks very much for listening. Hey, everybody, this is the On Cinema Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. We really do appreciate it. Follow us on Twitter. On Cinema Podcast is not on Twitter, but you can follow us individually. My name is Tim Heidecker, and I'm joined by my guest, Greg Turkington.
Hey guys, good to be here, and especially on such a somber occasion where we're trying to raise money to help out the people affected by some of the recent events.
Well, I want to direct this episode directly to one man and or woman. I can't tell the kind of name this is Ian Stanley. It's E-O-I. I apologize if I'm not getting that right. But
reminds me of the movie AI with Steven
or Captain
Spielberg.
EO from Michael Jackson's career. We want to also Greg, this will be a surprise to you, and I think you'll appreciate this. This person is writing to us from the country of New Zealand.
Oh, that's Hobbit land.
Yeah, couldn't be further away either from where we are in sunny California. But thank you. It's amazing to know that from across the globe there are people coming together and helping out our friends in the East Coast of the United States. So thank you so much for your donation. And since you didn't indicate what movie you wanted to hear, I think we should probably send you a review for The Lord of the Rings.
Yes, I would love to have a chance to.
And I'm going to turn it over to you, Greg, because I'm not familiar with these movies as much as you are. I've seen them once on TNT here, which is a cable network that has commercials. So there's so many commercials, you can imagine how long the movie was.
Well, the commercials would get in the way of something like this because they put a lot of effort into this movie to make it flow right, and it's really a crime to break things up with ads that really don't have the look or the feel of this movie. It's a very stylized movie when you've got your elves and dwarves and hobbits and wizards and dragons and ghouls and things. To just have a potato chip ad in the middle of it seems somehow false, and that's too bad.
All right, well, it just occurred to me if this is just for this one person, and they're from New Zealand. Most likely, they've already seen this movie and probably don't need to hear anything more about it. So, is there anything else you want to say, Greg, off topic, or any other recommendations? Maybe that this person, because who knows? Maybe you recommend a movie that they're not familiar with, that they don't get in New Zealand.
Well, I would recommend a movie called Lord of the Flies, which is unrelated to Lord of the Rings, but a very similar title, and I think you like it.
Thanks for
give it a
listening.
shot.
Okay, thanks for listening. Hey everybody, thanks for listening to On Cinema. It's a podcast where we talk about our favorite movies, some of them better than others, who knows. My guest is Greg Turkington.
Hey guys, good to be here, and especially for such a good cause as the Red Cross, and we'll talk about that.
My special listener, one listener today is David Marks. And David, thank you so much.
Any relation to the Marx Brothers?
Oh, no, it's because it's spelled Marks.
Well.
So definitely not. David did something a little unusual. He sent his own movie along for us to watch, and the name of that movie is The Reach of Resonance. And
Yes.
it's an independent film. We usually don't talk about independent films very often. Certainly not documentaries. And this is both. So, Greg, what did you think?
Well, it's about music. We all love music. It plays a big part in all of our lives. My favorite song is Build Me Up, Buttercup. Remember that one? And it's not mentioned in this movie, but I still feel that the movie has a lot to offer. It sort of goes through different aspects of music. You know, Tim, I was thinking that, I don't know if you've noticed a lot of the bigger movies, they'll have critical reviews on the posters. And as this is kind of a smaller movie, this might be a good chance for us to say something that might end up on the poster, which would be sort of a feather in the cap for On Cinema.
Mm-hmm. Well, we could say it's a must-see, and that would be something that would be appropriate.
Or Film of the Year.
Well, that wouldn't be something we'd want to say. I agree, though. That would be great if we could say a must-see, or I really loved this movie.
Or groundbreaking.
One of a kind.
A new American classic.
Okay, if that's fine to use, if he wants to use that, just accredit that to Greg only, because I don't know if I'd agree with that.
Well, no, but just put the name of the podcast and
no, then just use
also.
then just because it's my podcast, just use the ones I chose. Thanks for listening. Hey, everybody. It's the On Cinema podcast. Thanks for listening. My name is Tim Heidecker. I'm the host. And well, thanks for listening. That's my only thought. Pardon me. And let me just introduce my guest, Greg Turkington.
Hey, guys. Good to be here, and especially talking about a movie today, which I happened to...
Well, let me introduce the movie.
Well, I peeked over Tim's shoulder, and I kind of saw what the movie is.
Okay,
So
well,
you go ahead and introduce it.
yes,
I was just
we have
saying
an
I was very
interesting,
excited,
listening-
excited about the movie today.
I understand. But let's follow the protocols of the show. Speaking of protocols of the show, we're breaking one big rule. Usually we do a show for thousands and thousands of listeners. Today we're doing a show for one listener. That's Tim Merrifield. And
is he related to you? Because same first name.
No, that's not how that works. Tim Merrifield has asked. He's given a terrific donation to the Red Cross for $50, and we really do appreciate that donation. And Tim, thank you so much. It's very generous and very thoughtful. I am also a little disappointed that we didn't get millions of donations.
Yeah, because then I could talk about millions of movies,
Right.
which would suit me fine.
But we're here right now with Tim, and his movie that he wants us to talk about is called Lost Boys.
Oh,
The Lost Boys with
Corey
Kiefer Sutherland
Feldman
and
Corey Haim.
This is the ultimate '80s movie. I think it's almost like if they had made Twilight, which is a popular series now. If they had made Twilight in the '80s, it would have been almost as if it was Lost Boys. So it is a vampire movie and really scary, but also fun and kind of irreverent.
And a great cast.
A great cast.
And it's a classic, and you're not going to meet very many people in your lifetime who lived through the 80s who aren't huge fans of this movie because it really is that good.
Thanks for listening. Hey everybody, you're listening to On Cinema. My name is Tim Heidecker. I am the host and originator of the movies, or talking about movies on podcasts. Thank you so much for listening and checking in with us. My guest today is Greg Turkington.
Hey guys, good to be here, and especially for a good cause.
Yeah, usually we do this podcast for thousands of people, but today we're actually doing it for one person. It's Griffin Carpenter, whose brother Max actually put this in as a Christmas present, or is a Christmas present? I can't seem to. It's a present. Yes, a Christmas present. I don't know, Greg. Anything there with the Carpenter name?
Well, I was going to say John Carpenter is one of my favorite directors, and I don't know if Max is related to John Carpenter, but if he is, give him my best and ask him if he'd like to come on the show sometime and discuss the Halloween movies with us. That could be a very special episode.
We would talk about Brokeback Mountain today.
Oh, yes. Oscar winner, Brokeback Mountain. Very controversial film at the time that it came out. I think since then it's become a very popular film and a very well-liked film, and won several awards.
I know a lot of people, certainly members of my family, that are not interested in seeing this kind of movie, and for good reason. And it's certainly, there's different kinds of movies for all kinds of different kinds of people, and I wouldn't ask anybody to watch anything they didn't want to watch. And this is a case of movie that just does not sit well with me, and I don't wish anybody ill will, and I certainly don't wish anybody violence upon them for the way that they behave in private. But I'll tell you something, this is a bit of a awkward movie for me. So,
it's an old-fashioned movie. It's not that different from.
I don't know if have you seen it?
I've seen it. It's very similar.
And what about it exactly is old-fashioned?
Have you ever seen The Way We Were with Robert
Yes,
Redford
but-
and Barbara Streisand?
It's
It's exactly the same story.
No,
with
but
a
what's
twist.
the twist? Yeah, the twist is a big twist.
Yeah, but I
Okay.
think we all like twists in movies. If it's a horror movie and it turns out that the vampire is
hey,
actually the school principal,
If
then
you
you
want
like
to watch,
the twist. And
if you want to watch that kind of stuff, feel free. That's your right.
Well, I love The Way We Were, and I love Brokeback Mountain.
Okay.
And to me, it's the same movie.
Thank you very much.
Somebody gets cancer and then they die.
All right, thanks for listening. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. This is the On Cinema podcast. I'm your host, Tim Heidecker. Thanks for listening after all these episodes. We really do appreciate the wonderful feedback we get from the show. My guest is Greg Turkington.
Hey guys, good to be here and good to be helping the Red Cross out by doing these special episodes.
And that's right. This is a special episode directed right to one man, Greg Ahee. It's Ahee. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I've never seen that last name before. It's very unusual. And I don't know why people with unusual names just don't change it to something more common for the sake of other people. I don't know why I have to feel, makes me feel embarrassed to mispronounce your name when you could change your name to something like Parker. So your name would be Greg Parker.
Yeah, but there's already some Greg Parkers out there.
Well, you can name Greg Parker the third, or there's lots of people with the same name. You usually don't meet people with the same name at the same time, so it's never really a problem. Greg, it's none of my business, but thank you so much for your donation of $50 actually $80 from Greg. So,
Ooh.
Greg, for that much, since you went over, keep the name. Who am I to judge? The movie that you picked for us to review is Mr. Brooks.
Oh, I love this movie. This is actually a classic from a few years back.
It's a modern classic, I
2007,
guess?
maybe, I would say. It's a psychological thriller, drama, crime drama, a little bit of horror, a little bit of a twist, and it stars Kevin Costner. And if you've ever seen Dances with Wolves, it's good to see him back in the saddle again.
It almost makes me think of Mel Brooks, though, and if I know he had nothing to do with this movie, but if you had to name your top 3 Mel Brooks movies, what would they be?
I would say The History of the World Part 1.
Mm-hmm.
High Anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
To Be or Not to Be.
Okay, you skipped some classics. Blazing Saddles for me, number 3. Silent Movie, number 2. And also to the one with Robin Hood.
Okay, those are good too. If
Thank
you had to pick 3 Kevin Costner movies, what would you pick?
Dances with Wolves, Field of Dreams, and this movie here, Mr. Brooks.
I would say Dances with Wolves, Mr. Brooks, and Field of Dreams.
Thank you very much, and thanks for listening. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. My name is Tim Heidecker. You're listening to another episode of On Cinema, the podcast where we discuss things related to films. And my guest is Greg Turkington.
Hey, guys. Good to be here and good to be helping out a great cause.
Yes, this is a special episode where we're really just directing this episode to an audience of one, Mr. Kyle Shank. Kyle, thanks for listening. Thanks for being a big On Cinema supporter. And honestly, you really can consider yourself a member of the On Cinema family. And it's a tight-knit community full of people that love movies, love talking about movies, and
love going to the movies.
And love going to the movies. And thank you for your $100. Listen, this is a $100 donation to the Red Cross. Unbelievable. Thank you so much for your gift of money.
Which will buy a lot of movies.
And, it won't be buying movies in this case. If I assume it'll be going towards relief efforts. Which I suppose if somebody's if some independent business had a video store, they'll need money to buy more movies to rent.
Or if you lost your collection in a flood, maybe those
they
replace it.
Those people should have insurance. And Red Cross is really just about the immediate needs for clothing, shelter. I don't think they're going to be dealing with that. Anyhow, Kyle's movie is Drive Angry.
Oh, in 3D.
Yes.
I saw this picture when it came out. It was actually one of the bigger hits of last year with Nicolas Cage.
Mm-hmm.
Action, adventure. And it takes place in hell itself. And,
oh, boy.
So 3D, hell, you got me on that one. That's a lot of fun to see those flames jumping out at the screen. And it's a little dark. If you're a Bible thumper, you might want to stay away from this one. But if you like a good popcorn movie, a lot of action, a little bit of romance, and a lot of flames, this is your movie.
Well, I unfortunately can't go see 3D movies. I have a optical problem in my eyes. They see they don't see in stereo. Most eyes see different things. My eyes see the same thing. So my one eye sees the same thing as the other eye, which is called a monovision syndrome, and it's something I've just always had, and it's you couldn't. I wouldn't know what anything else looks like, but for 3D doesn't work for
LASIK,
me.
If you get LASIK surgery, that would correct that.
No, that's not an option for me, and it's not a big deal. I just can't go see 3D movies. So
I think you could watch this in 2D because it came out on DVD, and that would be your chance to see it. I don't own it, or I'd loan you my copy.
All right. Well, I'll definitely check it out. I'm a big Nicolas Cage guy, and I like, God, I can't think of a movie I've seen of his that I didn't absolutely fall in love with. So this will have to go on my to-do list of movies to watch. Thanks, Kyle, for the great suggestion. And again,
thanks, Kyle. And thanks, Nicolas Cage.
And thanks, Nicolas Cage. I'm sure he's donating a ton of money to this effort, too, because I know he's kind of a New Yorker. Bye. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the On Cinema Podcast. My name is Tim Heidecker, and, where it's a podcast where we talk about movies. If you're listening to this, you know what I'm talking about. My guest is Greg Turkington, film buff and a friend of mine. So thanks, Greg, for being a part of the show.
Hey, I wouldn't miss it for the world.
I got big news. We're doing a special episode right now for one and only Lauren Webster. Lauren Webster, you're the only listener, and we appreciate your commitment and your amazing donation to the Red Cross. And I can't thank you enough. On behalf of the Red Cross, we can't thank you enough. So your donation, I know, is going to a good place. And in exchange for that donation, we're happy to send you this review of Roadhouse.
Oh, that was her choice. That's a great choice.
Mm-hmm. Greg, this is kind of a quintessential 80s so bad it's good, maybe, or is it just good on its own? Is it a classic?
I think it's just good on its own. Anytime you have Patrick Swayze, there's a certain level of quality that he brings to the screen, and this is one of his classic movies. I'm a big Dirty Dancing fan, but I would say Roadhouse tops them all. It's a classic.
And of course, some great fight choreography here,
and Sam Elliott. Sam Elliott. He's got a very gravelly.
Yeah,
gravelly
you'll notice his voice on
voice.
commercials for beef and for Ram trucks. But he's also great on camera as well, not just a voiceover guy. Would love to have him as a guest. And Roadhouse, it's one of those that I think you can watch over and over again too.
What can you say about it? It's a classic.
All right, thanks for listening. Hey, everybody. This is the On Cinema Podcast. My name is Tim Heidecker. I am the host of the show. And thanks for listening. I want to invite my guest on the show. He is a longtime film buff, friend, and historian of film, Mr. Greg Turkington. Thanks for being on the show, Greg.
Thank you. It's good to take some time out of my schedule of watching movies to talk about movies.
Well, we've got a special episode today directed for one person and one person only. That's Russ Frobiter. Who knows? Who knows how to say that name? But it's an honor to be able to do this for you because of that generous donation you made to the American Red Cross. Thank you so much from the bottom of the hearts of the On Cinema family. And actually, now I think you can consider yourself, Russ, a member of the On Cinema family. And because not only your commitment to listening to the show, but your commitment to the Red Cross is so valuable to us.
He's a cousin. Because the main family members would be you and then me. And he would be a cousin.
I just consider everybody part of the family. So we're talking about a movie today, Greg, called The Foot Fist Way. Foot Fist Way.
Wow, okay. I haven't seen this one in a couple of years. I have seen it a few times, though. It's funny. It's a comedy. Have you ever seen Kung Fu Panda? It's sort of like that. It's a kung fu movie. Kicking and screaming and that sort of thing, but it's not animated. It actually features actors playing these kung fu characters.
Any stars we can look to?
It's a smaller movie. There's these are no-name actors, but they all do a great job, and it's a lot of fun. And I really strongly recommend it. And if you have the chance to see it on DVD when it's not broken up by advertisements, that's the best way to see it.
All right, well, The Foot First Way. I'll have to put that on my to-do list. I usually don't see movies outside of my comfort zone. In other words, movies I've seen before or movies based on, obviously if a new Superman's coming out or
Star Wars. They're doing some new,
like that. Those
doing
are the movies
new
I'm
Star
gonna
Wars
see.
movies.
But I'm always open to trying different things, and my wife and I are always like, let's do a night where we rent something that we haven't even heard of.
And get some Chinese food and watch this movie.
Right. All right. Well, I'll put it on my list. And thanks for listening. Hey everybody, thanks for listening. My name is Tim Heidecker. I'm the host of a show called I'm a host of this show on on Cinema Podcast, which is at onscinemapodcast.com. My guest today is none other than one of the guests I've had before on he's returning champion Greg Turkington.
Hey guys, On Cinema continues to help out by
Well, let me
with this
explain this.
donation to the
This episode is really just for one person, and it's for Brian Egan. And Brian Egan was so generous in his donation of $50 to the Red Cross.
Thank you, Brian.
He'll be able to cherish and treasure this MP3 for as long as he has access to a computer, or can hold this file and maybe even put it up in the cloud as they do these days.
Dub it onto tape, and then you don't
never
have to
lose
worry
it.
about it.
But the cloud is actually a pretty good place. I put all my storage stuff up there in terms of files and documents. I can get it any time.
But anyone can get at those, so it's not
Nah,
really safe.
if they don't have my password, they can't get it. Anyhow.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't trust that.
All right. Well, a lot of people use it, and there's been no problems on my end yet. Knock on wood.
You
Knock on wood.
need to read more.
Trust me, my password, you would never guess it, not in a million years. So, Brian Egan, thanks again for listening. Your favorite movie is Pumping Iron from Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh, this was the first.
You have to let me do my Arnold.
Okay.
If we're going to talk about this. So, I already did it, but go ahead.
This is the first of the Arnold Schwarzenegger hits, and he went on to become the governor of California.
But we say the governor.
And our other governor, who was an actor, went on to become the president, Ronald Reagan, who was...
Well, Nancy, I don't know if I agree with that. I was president for 2 terms.
Okay, well, and then I guess that's it for actors in the gubernatorial chair. But
but don't forget about me, Arnold Schwarzenegger, the governor of California, or he would always say California.
Yeah, in this movie, he wasn't the governor. In this movie, he was just starting out. He was just an actor and a bodybuilder. And it's an interesting look at the bodybuilding scene.
I just want to jump. Apologies for the water sip there. It just hurts my throat doing that impression.
Well, if you talk to Schwarzenegger, he tells you that you can't build up muscles unless you work out and practice. So just as he built up the strong muscles on his arm, you're building up muscles in your throat by doing the impersonation, so you can better do the impersonation.
And he was a great governor, and if I urge everybody to request the constitutional amendment to allow foreigners, first of all, once we get rid of Obama, but allow foreigners to become president, because he would be a great president just the way he was a great actor and a great producer and a great governor.
Obama was not an actor or producer.
No, I'm saying, but if we change the Constitution now, then you could make an argument that Obama, because he is not born in a country in America, that would allow him to become president.
Well,
so wait for him to get
too
beat.
late. He's already been. It's too late.
Well, I'm saying don't change it now. Well, we're recording this before the second election, so don't change it now. Wait for him to lose and then change it. Anyways, it's complicated, but
It's a great movie, though, and you should see it if you can get it. It might be out of print by now. It's an old movie.
All right, thanks for listening. Hey everybody, this is the On Cinema Podcast. My name is Tim Heidecker, and you are listening to the On Cinema Podcast. My guest is Greg Turkington, and Greg, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, thanks. It's always fun to be here at the On Cinema Studios and sharing my opinions about different movies that I love.
Well, today we've got a very special episode. It's directed to one person only, and that person is none other than, I wish this was more of a famous person, but it's Brandon Alessi.
Okay. Brandon Alessi, thank you so
much. Hey, Brandon,
much.
and thank you so much for your donation to the Red Cross. I mean, I can't believe it. It's I know the times are tough right now, and for you to be able to just give away $50 like that is really beautiful, and thank you so much. And
let's save New York. If you've ever seen King Kong or some of the great movies filmed there, you know what a national treasure that city has been.
Thank you for that. And actually, your movie is not about New York. It's about Grosse Point Blank. It's the name of the movie is Grosse Point Blank. And Greg, talk to us a little bit about this movie with John Cusack.
Yes, I've seen this one many times. In fact, Brandon, I own this movie. It's nice when you can have your own personal video collection. I think back in the 50s and 40s and things like that, people could only dream of owning the movies that they would go to see. And now it's very easy. And in fact, I got this movie for a whopping $3 on VHS. And it stars John Cusack, who you might remember from Con Air. And this is a comedy about a high school reunion gone mad.
Starring one of the original not ready for primetime players.
Bill Murray.
No. Dan Aykroyd.
Dan Aykroyd is in this as well.
Dan Aykroyd is funny because he turns up in these more dramatic parts a lot of the time, and it's like, hey, hold on a minute, you're a comedy guy, or you're from the original comedy sketch show, SNL. What are you doing all this acting and dramas?
Driving Miss Daisy.
But guess what? That's one of the Hollywood secrets is sometimes comedians can be in dramatic actors as well.
But it usually doesn't work. But it worked for Dan Aykroyd with Driving Miss Daisy, which is a classic.
And if you look at Dan Aykroyd, I think because he's such a chameleon, he loves playing different parts. In some of the more later films in the 90s and more recently, he always wears a fat suit. And it's always surprising to see because if you see him in the old days, he's rail thin, really skinny. And he really loves changing his appearance. He's like a chameleon.
Well, but when John Belushi died, they still needed a fat guy in the Blues Brothers, and Aykroyd filled his shoes and did a great job of it because he's still my favorite Blues Brother.
Thanks for listening. Hey, everybody. This is the On Cinema podcast. Thank you so much for listening. We are talking about a couple of pretty exciting times right now. You know, I got a lot of things going on, and, I'm busy, and had a moment or two here to record some episodes with Greg Turkington.
Hey, guys. It's good to be here for this special series of episodes going directly to those who have donated to the Red Cross.
Yes, and this episode's going to Zach Taylor. Zach actually had a kind of an interesting request. He requested that we review a movie that him and his friend made, or actually a friend had made, and called Deer Hunters.
Zach Taylor is the name of a former president, Zachary Taylor.
Sure. And this one I'm a little confused by because it's not in English, and it's features from some subtitles, which always makes me hesitant whether or not that's a good idea. I think generally, if you're going to do a movie from another language, you should just make it in the language that you want to make the movie in, and then either if it's playing, for example, if it's a French movie, dub it in English, and then people can not have to read for 2 hours. In other words, I would get a book to read, and or a magazine or newspaper, whatever. And movies are meant to be seen and heard, not read. Greg?
Well, it depends on what it is. I would not like to tune into the Flintstones one morning and they're speaking Greek. You know, that would be a little upsetting. But when you have a good foreign movie, like I believe this movie, Deer Hunters, is, I think you can transcend that as people did with Chariots of Fire, which was a foreign film that won several Oscars and is one of the all-time classics.
Well, it's a British movie that was in English as well, so that didn't have a problem that this movie suffers from, which I think is a fatal flaw.
Well, Britain is a foreign country.
No,
so.
I know, but they speak the same language, so I can watch a movie from Britain and not have a problem. But if
But
I
it
watch
was
a movie
about
from Italy, the only exception is Life is Beautiful, because that so relies on physical comedy and being able to perform physically, that's the one that gets my vote for best movie.
Well, Chariots of Fire is the exception too, because there's athletes from all over the world that run those races.
All right. Thanks for listening anyway. Hey Hey, everybody, this is the On Cinema Podcast. My name is Tim Heidecker. Thanks for listening. My guest is Greg Turkington. Thanks, Greg.
Hey guys, good to be here, and especially for such a good cause.
Well, thank you, Greg. And let me just say what's going on here. We're doing special episodes of the show, and this is really an episode for two people. First of all, it's for me and Greg because we enjoy doing it, but it's also for Levon and Sylvan Scheffler. I hope I'm saying that right. I apologize if I'm not, but I'll be honest with you. We're doing this because of your generous donation to the Red Cross. You know, it's really terrific what you've done, and you shall never be forgotten. You will never be forgotten for the generous donation you made. And so in honor of your donation, we want to just say we're going to be reviewing this movie for you here. And the movie that you've chosen is Santa with Muscles, starring Hulkster, the Hulk Hogan.
This is a great movie.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's an 80s movie. It's kind of from that generation of 80s movies. And it's a Santa Claus movie, a holiday movie.
And a timeless movie. It's an 80s movie, but not it. You could watch it in the 90s. You could watch it today because it's very funny.
Right. So, yeah, definitely get your family around and wait for the holidays. Don't watch this in the middle of the summer or anything.
I watched this a couple months ago, and it was fine.
Well, my recommendation, this is Greg's recommendation, is watch it anytime. Mine is wait for the Christmas Eve.
Well, you don't have to.
Wait for Christmas. Hold on now. This is my advice.
All right, but
my advice is watch it on Christmas Eve with all the presents around the Christmas tree, and you'll be able to celebrate it with your friends and family and watch a fun movie instead of the usual movies that you usually watch, like Miracle on 34th Street, etc., etc. You will be able to watch this if you haven't seen it because it'll be a new one. Now, go ahead with your recommendation.
My advice is you don't have to.
I'm not saying anybody has to. I'm just saying what my recommendation is.
Well, my recommendation is you don't have to go to Auschwitz to watch Schindler's List. You don't have to sit in a concentration camp to watch Schindler's List. You don't have to watch this on Christmas Day. You can watch it year-round.
I didn't say you have to. I'm saying if you want to have the full experience.
Well, I saw this movie in July, and I loved it, and I can't see how I would love it anymore.
All right,
whatever
good.
day of the week. I mean,
okay, so watch it whenever you want. My recommendation is to watch it on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day.
Well, mine is to watch it as much as you can because it's a fun movie.
Santa with Muscles with the Hulk Hogan playing Santa Claus. Very fun movie, and thanks for listening. Hey everybody, you're listening to On Cinema. It's the On Cinema podcast where we talk about different kinds of movies and just get into the whole spirit of watching movies. And we've guest with me today is Greg Turkington.
Hey guys, good to be here, and especially today where we're raising money for a great cause.
Yeah, and this one's actually going out directly to Phil Marr, who requested a specific review of a movie called Junebug.
Ooh, Junebug. That's fun. That's a treat to be able to talk about that movie because it's sort of a modern classic.
Yeah, this one is one of those, I usually don't get around to seeing independent films because I'm always more interested in bigger, the popcorn movies and stuff. So, I didn't see this one, but I know that it got a lot of great reactions from people that did see it.
Including myself.
Okay, well, but I pay attention to, this blog and that blog for movies, and I remember when that came out, I actually do remember this, people were freaking out saying it was the best movie of the year and everything, but I didn't get around to see it.
Well, I wouldn't say it was the best movie of the year, but I'd say it came close, and really you should see it, and I'd recommend that our listener Phil sees this movie if he hasn't already.
All right, well, thanks for listening. Hey everybody, this is Tim Heidecker, and I'm your host of On Cinema. You're listening to On Cinema, the podcast where we talk about movies and movie stars and just the whole general culture of what that is, what movies are, and hopefully give you guys some advice. My guest is a film buff and a historian of film, and he knows just about everything there is about movies. He's been on the show before, Mr. Greg Turkington.
Hey guys, good to be here. We've got a great episode lined up today.
Well, we have a special episode because it's for the Red Cross, and Kelsey Fox donated some money for the $50 for the Red Cross, and so this episode is directly for her. She requested this. She requested us review a movie called Norwegian Ninja. Which I have to admit, I saw this in the request bin. I laughed out loud because I'd never heard of this movie before, but it's such a funny title. It's sort of like, I hope that they were going for comedy when they came up with this title, because it seems like a funny, fun movie.
Well, I have seen the movie, and they definitely were going for comedy. And of course, it's funny to talk about a movie called Norwegian Ninja.
It's a tongue twister.
We're here in Hollywood, where a lot of the big action movies are actually made. You don't often see them from the Norwegian countries. So this is an interesting film.
Not a lot of stars in this movie, which sort of was a big turnoff for me, because if I'm going to see a big movie, I want to see big stars.
Well, sometimes the star of a movie is the plot, and in this case it definitely is. This is a fun movie, and I recommend it to anyone who loves action, adventure, or movies in general.
All right, well, this is... Can you turn it down with a leaf blower? All right, thanks for listening. Hey everybody, you're listening to the On Cinema podcast. My name is Tim Heidecker, and I got a special guest with me today. He's a film buff. He knows just about everything there is to know about movies. It's Greg Turkington with me.
Hey guys, it's exciting to be here yet again to tape another successful episode of On Cinema.
Let's hope it's successful. Who can't know until we do it and listen back. And anyway, this is a special episode for Jeff Ide, or it's Eric or Jeff Ide. I was almost thinking of Eric Idle.
Oh, from the old Monty Python.
Yeah.
Meaning of life.
And also some of the other movies. And anyway, but this gentleman wants to talk about a movie called Inland Empire.
Oh, yeah, okay.
From David Lynch.
You've come to the right place. We're happy to talk about it and talk about what an excellent movie it was, and how it was very popular amongst the Lynch heads, and I consider myself one of those.
Well, I remember seeing this movie when it came out, and it was a little too weird for me. I don't know if you felt this way, but I didn't really get what was going on, and I kind of checked out after a few minutes. I didn't really make it through. Geez, I don't think I made it for the first 5 or 10 minutes.
Well, I did see the whole thing, and I can tell you that it's got a great cast, it's a great story, and the movie's an instant classic. And if you haven't seen it, Jeff, you will want to pick it up.
Thanks for listening.